My name's Adrian Baschnonga. I'm lead telecoms analyst at EY, and today I'm going to be talking about customer experience and what telcos can learn from other industry sectors. I think it's worth starting off by saying that customer experience is very much top of mind for all telcos. We're in the process right now of actually conducting a set of interviews with the C-suite leading telcos worldwide. And when we ask the question, what are your organization's most important strategic priorities over the next 3 years, customer experience management comes way out in front. Comes out ahead of cost control and business efficiencies, network upgrades and modernization, new services development. Now, we're not necessarily saying here that these different answers are mutually exclusive, and clearly, improvements to network quality can support the customer experience, but customer experience certainly top of mind at the telco C-suite. Customer trust issues, however, are becoming more complex for telcos. So if we look at the drivers of focus on customer experience, we can see a number of factors all interplaying there. We can see that customers are becoming more demanding. They are extremely price sensitive. They want more for less. There's also this drive towards self-service and personalization. And trust is becoming a really important differentiator. Also worth bearing in mind the changing services landscape. Today we've been talking very much about the consumer experience, but let's not forget a lot of telcos are moving more aggressively into B2B services. That's where revenue growth rates are highest. There you're talking about more complex delivery chains. You're talking about greater reliance on partnerships. Who owns the customer there? How do you ensure a consistent customer experience? And set against that, you've also got shifting regulatory burdens, mandated price reductions in mobile termination rates, roaming rates, for example, a greater regulatory focus on customer protection, and again, new and emerging guidelines in things like data privacy and security, and certainly that's top of mind amongst consumers. And again, set against that, you've got new ways of disruption. App-driven convenience is king, and web giants are now in all industry verticals. And I've actually taken some data here on the right from an Orange Digital Trust survey, which I think is quite interesting because it shows, or it asks the question about which entities are doing a good job of educating you on the internet use and keeping personal data safe. And what's interesting there is that you can see that, okay, mobile operators, ISPs, currently doing a better job than a lot of other entities, but there's a big gap there between currently doing a good job and would be the best. So customer expectations there very high. There is an expectation that operators will be, if you like, guardians of data in the digital age. And on the bottom right of the slide there, some outputs from a survey that we did at EY, where we found that only 35% of mobile users believe that their service provider effectively communicates new service offerings. 45% of potential mobile money users would try these services sooner with improved privacy and security information. So this whole issue of communication from service provider to customer really in focus for telcos. But there's significant upside for those that can get this right and can evolve with the times, if you like. And here you've got a sort of a graphic that tries to show the steps of the customer journey, starting off on the bottom left with optimized customer interactions, where every interaction is a chance to build or erode trust, moving towards consistent customer experiences. And obviously, clearly, that's a challenge to weigh up in this omni-channel environment. But if you look further forward towards trusted customer relationships, and this is really something that's earned over time by consistent interactions with integrity, and then you get to the stage where you're a trusted organization, when trusted relationships are more plentiful than any other kind. And probably worth bearing in mind here that we're talking about the customer experience, but there's a big role to play for employees and organizations. As advocacy becomes more important, having employees who are able to demonstrate those customer experience values. Certainly something that we're seeing when we talk to operators as becoming more of a focus area. And again, a few stats there on the bottom. 4 times high trust companies, they provide 4 times the returns at the market average for comparative low trust companies. 91% of consumers choose to buy from a company they trust, and empowered employees are 87% less likely to leave an organisation. But looking now at telcos and how they compare to other industry sectors, we can see that telcos underperform on key metrics. I know we've had a bit of a debate already about NPS today, and on the left there you can see that's coming from the US, but cellular phone service, cable satellite TV, internet service, right down the bottom there. And you know, why is that? Well, you know, talking again to various people in the industry, it seems that NPS has been something of an afterthought. Although it's getting more focus, I think very interesting to see the results this year from the survey, that it's actually slipped down in the hierarchy of metrics that operators are using. And you know, what can you blame this on? Well, you know, customer service delivery across channels, particularly social media, a lack of proactive customer communications, and again, issues around understanding contracts, even understanding the bill, something as basic as that, telcos often struggle with. You know, and NPS is used as more than a tool, ultimately by other sectors, to identify challenges in meeting customer expectations. It can act as a catalyst for wholesale organisational transformation. It's a simple and effective metric. It can be used to incentivise internal teams. On the right-hand side, we've got a UK National Customer Satisfaction Index, and again, you can see mobile operators just below halfway, internet service providers down at the bottom. And you know, what are the sort of learnings there? Well, again, you know, when we look at some of these cross-sector comparisons, we can see that, you know, internet retail customer satisfaction in the UK actually climbing at the moment, as companies make it easier for consumers to navigate websites, comparison shop, order and pay. Again, traditional retailers, and we'll come on to that, responding very clearly and effectively to a lot of the digital challenges, disruptive challenges facing their sector. And again, on the financial services side, those customers with mobile banking apps tend to outscore those customers without mobile banking apps. And I've just picked out some of the survey data from European Communications. You know, what are operators looking at? Well, it's quite clear here, both retail and banking and finance, in terms of which industries do they look at as the benchmark for customer experience. And customer experience certainly very important to a range of sectors. I've just taken a few quotes here. The CEO of RBS saying, "We should be able to find a way to make loans available as quickly as payday lenders do, in minutes rather than hours or days or weeks." Shortening the time to market, you know, key issue there. Director of Online at John Lewis, "We've been able to take a business that not long ago was only able to deliver product in bulk into a small number of locations for store replenishment, into a business that does very well and also delivers product individually picked, individually wrapped, packed and sent to the individual customer in their home or to a collection point." And I think, you know, that's really interesting. Clearly retail, yes, it is sales and volume driven, as previously mentioned by Andy, but this has been, you know, a marked turnaround for supermarkets. It's been a real changing of the game there. And again, Comcast, going back to this issue about, you know, percentage of drop calls versus the sheer volume of customer issues that Philippe mentioned. CEO of Comcast says we have about 350 million interactions with consumers a year. It may be over 400 million. That doesn't count online interactions, which I think is over 1 billion. You get 1/10 of 1% bad experience. That's a lot of people. So I'm going to start off looking at these other sectors with, you know, what's happening in retail. Again, a significant amount of disruption there in terms of mobile and digital, big data. All of this impacting consumer expectations. They want greater transparency. They want more choice and control. Price comparison has really changed the game there. It's all about improving and personalising the experience, advocacy and social sharing, very important, and anywhere, anytime. And so enterprises really have had to adapt. They've had to adapt in terms of product, service, pricing, and experience. So omni-channel, and again, we've heard a lot about this already today, but very much lies at the heart of the strategies for many retailers. And what's interesting here, you know, when we think about disruption, we think about substitution, we think about cannibalization, we think about paradigm shifts. Actually, for a retailer, it's about the continued coexistence of offline and online. And here you've got some retail sales CAGRs, 2013, 2018 in a number of markets. And yes, you can see that internet retailing, sure, that's growing, but so's store-based retailing as well. You know, retailers have long had access to more granular data. If you think about the loyalty schemes they've had for many years, it's really working that kind of thing into a digital context for them. So augmenting that existing loyalty data, which is absolutely important, but with demographic data, credit ratings, product promotions. And retailer strategies have moved significantly away from product and category specific decisions, breaking down organizational silos. And again, that's a common theme across all sectors. How does the organization change itself to meet this new demand for a better customer experience? So how would we break down what retailers are doing, what they're getting right? Well, they're meeting demands for an integrated experience, crucially. You know, digital first transformation, number of high street chains have really put this in their DNA over the last 5 years now, prioritizing online and mobile as primary sales channels. And here you've got to see that there's a mix. You know, some people research online, buy in a shop. Some people research in a shop and buy online. And it's getting that kind of mixture and catering for that kind of customer activity that's key for a number of retailers. It's also about focusing on fast fulfillment as a differentiator. Okay, so traditional advantage in retail was location. Now it is the know-how to bring goods to people as quickly and conveniently as possible. Also personalizing the store experience as well. Again, another big differentiator in that world of online. What's your store redesign and overhaul program looking like? And finally, dynamic pricing online and in store. So to maintain profitability in a world of price comparison apps, retailers are overhauling price matching policies and implementing dynamic pricing solutions, for example. You've got examples from the likes of Tesco in the UK. I think Amazon last year changed its prices 2.5 million times per day, which was, again, a tenfold increase on the year before. So lots of new capability, lots of change, ongoing pressure for existing retailers to keep up there. So, you know, if we had to pick out, you know, one example of, you know, retail customer experience in focus, we'd, you know, perhaps look at Waitrose and continual enhancements to its omni-channel experience, which are delivering market-leading online growth. And here we're really talking about a series of continual innovations to its click and collect service. You know, the introduction of drive-throughs, collection pods, all predicated on customers being time-pressed, understanding the different use cases and mindsets of the end user. So this year you've had temperature-controlled delivery lockers, fully automated collection lockers as part of its click and collect service. You've got a drive-through service as well. You've got GPS tracking. And allied to that, you also had a substantial program of website overhaul in 2012 designed to increase conversion, average order value, and NPS, and decrease time to shop. A very clear set of metrics there as it underwent website overhaul. And so, you know, what are the outputs of that? Well, 49% Waitrose.com online sales growth in 2013 compared to market online sales growth of 19%. 43% of Waitrose owner John Lewis's click and collect orders are now picked up in a Waitrose shop. And actually across all sectors, Waitrose ranks number 7 in UK customer experience. Now taking a look at banks, and I guess this is an interesting one, because when we think of banks, we think of companies that capture customers at a young age. Churn rates are very low. We don't think of them as innovators necessarily, not in the same way that we would a retailer, for example. But, you know, banks have had to cope with a huge range of disruptive forces. On the technology front, I remember going to conferences 15 years ago where banks were looking at multi-channel service delivery, looking at WAP as a potential delivery channel. If you go back to the mid-90s, Mondex, electronic cash, for example, banks have actually always been at the forefront of innovation on that score. And what's happening now is that a lot of the promise, a lot of the hype, a lot of the discussion around tech change is really making itself felt actually in the banking sector. We've heard today of Orange's focus on mobile financial services, telcos with a strong track record of innovation there. There is a lot of disruption, a lot of cross-sector participation. So this year, global digital payments volume in e-commerce terms, that's up 16%, M-payments up 61%. And again, you look at the range of the industry actors that are pushing forward customer expectations here. Competition between banks, web giants, mobile operators, new technologies, beacons, NFC. You look at even the blurring lines between payments, marketing, location-sensitive services, shopping. It's a really, really fast-changing space. And again, regulatory burden, again, is shifting. Already a pronounced risk and compliance burden for banks, and again, something that's set to increase, allied to I guess the downturn in trust that many banks felt 5 years ago during the financial crisis. But, you know, customer needs are evolving in new directions. EY has surveyed and does actually an annual survey of consumer banking sentiment, and banking customer responses to more personalised products and services. 14% would pay more, 28% would add more products, and 20% would increase deposits. Trust plays a pivotal role, and again, some more outputs from some EY surveys on this score. We asked the question, which factors lead you to trust your primary financial services provider? And you can see that the way I am treated ranks number 2 there, just after financial stability. You know, ahead of fees I pay, ahead of interest rates I pay, quite significantly ahead, in fact. What are the reasons for you opening a new account in the last 12 months? Experience with financial services provider, again, ahead of rates and fees there. So very interesting just to see how that sort of trust issue, which we're seeing more of now in the telco space, as operators widen their service footprints, we're seeing certainly that has been something of long-standing interest to banks. And they are adapting to new customer imperatives. Banks are providing more simplicity, easy access to branches. Channel satisfaction is actually highest with online and internet. Banks are doing well on that score. But what does that mean? That means call centres are dealing with more complex inquiries as self-service for basic queries grow. And again, you know, on the cutting edge of innovation, quite a lot of banks experimenting with gamification. So to choose quite an interesting example here, Metro Bank in the UK, first high street bank to appear in many, many decades, actually, to receive a license. And, you know, the business case there that the UK retail banking sector was ripe for innovation. You've got high levels of market share concentration in UK retail banking. Again, in the wake of the financial crisis, a 2009 survey showed that just 7% of Britons had complete trust in their bank. So Metro Bank launched in 2010, actually just launched up the road in Holborn, since added 31 branches in the capital and southeast, plans to launch another 10 this year. Nearly 500,000 customers at the end of 2014, up 63% year on year, and the number 3 UK bank for customer satisfaction. Pretty impressive for a bank that's differentiating itself on its high street experience. So, you know, what has it done right? Well, customer service as a differentiator. This bank is more interested in service than appearing in Best Buy tables for services or mortgages. Majors on convenience factors such as instant issuance of debit cards, in store. And the branch and account opening experience completely overhauled. 7-day-a-week branch banking from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The founder actually personally selects branch locations, and it's reduced the account opening process to 15 minutes and insists this is done in branches. This is how Metro Bank sees itself differentiating from a very, very crowded high street and also online space, and it has a lean IT strategy supporting this. One area that always comes up as, potentially a place where telcos underperform in social customer service and how that channel interacts with other channels or doesn't in the case of millennials, as we've been hearing today. But a real need for all sectors, arguably, to improve their potential outreach in social customer service. And I've selected an example here, Jack Threads, which is an online retailer of men's clothing, exclusive time-sensitive discounts. And what they've done is quite interesting. They're really bringing together marketing and customer service. 10% of its support interactions are handled via social, for example. So it's about that proactivity element that's seen really as key there. And looking ahead, what's the customer experience imperative across all sectors? And the way we would see it really, just reading between the lines, looking at different experiences in different sectors, it's about realising the full impact of the customer voice. Customer support, employee incentivisation should reflect existing voice of the customer programmes. Understand how a greater focus on self-service can provide a differentiated experience, but crucially also impact other channels. Clearly there's a drive for analytics as well, journey mapping, survey feedback, interaction analytics. But also crucially, and if you take a step back from the customer experience and try and locate it within this hierarchy of management priorities, driving new linkages between customer experience and innovation and ecosystem management. Looking at customer experience, it's those innovative companies with new services that have actually shifted the dial. It's more than customer support. It's about often just rewriting the rule book. And there, looking at what telcos are doing at the moment, yes, there are lots of innovation programs underway. How do they link into the customer experience? I'll probably just end off with a few interesting points, again from some EY consumer research. We found that 58% of mobile customers who understand their data tariffs say their service providers communicate new services effectively. It's that link between understanding what you're currently being offered and how you value it affects your propensity to take up new services. And for those mobile customers, only 5% of mobile customers who don't understand their data tariffs say that their service providers communicate new services effectively. And this is really the challenge for telcos, is that the business model has been almost in a way overhauled itself by moving from flat rate data pricing to tiered data pricing. We often find in surveys people find it very difficult to understand those buckets of data, what that translates into in terms of service usage. So again, in terms of service innovation, linking that with a customer experience, absolutely crucial. Thanks very much.